Hello, I'm Holy Mind, and today we're looking at one-drop cards in Hearthstone. It will not include one-drops from classes or spells. Well, if you bear that in mind, I hope you enjoy the video, and enjoy. First, let's look at the Wisp. The Wisp, I decided to put Wisp in here first because it's a zero cost, and there were no other place to put it. Coming to think of what my upcoming videos were, so I decided to put it in here first. So let's get to it. Wisp overall is a really bad value card. You can replace it quite easily with any other thing. For example, a Leaper Gnome is so much better. It's an extra cost, but Wisps usually generally don't really do anything. I've written down here that they can possibly go in Knife Juggler, but all in all they can be removed relatively easily, and you shouldn't really put any of these decks, put any in a mini deck. So next up, we have the Wind Fury Dragonhawk. The Wind Fury Dragonhawk works really well in most Hunter decks. I won't say all Hunter decks because some vary on occasion. It definitely goes well with quite a lot of Hunter combos, includes Unleash Your Hounds. That's really good. But overall, it's for its value, I'd say it's decent. I won't say it's its best though. Its best value is definitely within Hunter deck, and it's not really wise to put it in any other deck. So next up is the Leaper Gnome. I love the Leaper Gnome so much. I think it's really good for value, and in my regard, I think it's one of the best one drops in game. It's a 2/1, and you deal 2 damage to the enemy. Like, regardless if they ping it off, you're still doing 2 damage, and they will not. If they waste a silence on this so early on with an Iron Beak Owl, then you've just took down a silence, and you don't have to worry. You only have to worry about 1 more silence. Depending if it's a priest or any other abilities, generally decks will carry 2 silencers. So yeah, so next up now is the Walking Infiltrator. The Walking Infiltrator is by far another one of the best one drops in the game. It's a 2/1 with stealth. It can't be picked off by pretty much anything. Mad Bomber is decent if you've got it. That can remove it pretty easily. Basic AoE spells include Arcane Explosion. Very easily to remove it, but all in all, it can relatively trade with a 2-drop because most 2-drops are a 3/2, and you can easily take it out for a 1-drop. That's perfect value. That is really good value, and in my book, probably one of the best minions in game for a 1-drop. Next is the Abusive Sergeant. Another great value minion in my book is Abusive Sergeant. Abusive Sergeant gives +2 to a friendly minion via the first time it's been placed down, and can easily be removed by hero's powers, but generally, if you've got another 1 cost down, or it goes really well with some combination cards, you can use it pretty much to remove something from a game immediately, and with that, it comes really good. Next, the worst card ever, Angry Chicken. I don't like it. It can be used well against a priest, I guess, with Power Word Shield, but I don't like it. It's really bad value. It's a 1/1 with 1 HP, and its special attack is +5 in Rage. Unless you want to spam the crap out of Divine Spirit and Power Word Shield, this ain't gonna get its Enrage off. Not by a long shot, and it's easily removed as soon as it comes on field. For example, Fire Blast from a mage, and pretty much Arcane Explosion. Pretty much mages are envy of 1 costs because they can pretty much take them out quite easily. Next up is the Argent Squire. Argent Squire is alright for value. It's a 1/1, but it's got Divine Shield, so it makes it relatively good to trade with, depending if I can get rid of the Divine Shield or not. The Divine Shield really works well with Blood Knights because it gives it a 3/3, as far as I'm aware. And Blood Knight is a 3 mana cost, so it makes it really good for a turn 4 combination, which is excellent value. But only if you've got a Blood Knight. Other than that, it's decent value. But as again, hero powers with mages or pretty much druids with shapeshift can pretty much relatively knock out Divine Shield, and then it can get finished off with pretty much basic minions. So next up is the Bloodsail Corsair. I don't like this card. I really hate it. It's a 1/1/2, and it pretty much removes 1 durability from your opponent's weapon. In my book, for 1 extra cost, Get a 6 Wampoos, it's a 2 for a 3-2. It's fantastic. It removes weapons pretty damn easily, and you don't have to worry about wasting a 1 cost on this thing. Because in my book anyway, maybe it worked well in pirate based decks because people like to do gimmicky pirate decks, but it's not really worth it in my book. Next is definitely the Hungry Crab. I kind of like this. I didn't like it at first, but now I kind of like it. It's a 1 for 1/2 and it gains +2/2 if a Murloc's destroyed, and chances are you might not come across someone in Constructive or Arena that's actually running Murlocs. But in that one case where they want to place a Murloc, if you've got Hungry Crab, you're getting excellent value from it. Like, exceedingly good value. It turns into a 3/4. That's really good value for a 1 cost. And you just removed something from their field, which is great. Then it usually trades well after that, which is fantastic, but otherwise it's just normal basic card. Next is the Light Warden. I love this card in my healing decks. Anything that's based on healing, which is pretty much normally just Priest, and sometimes you'll get the occasional healing totem with Shaman. But other than that, it's really good because it gains +2 attack for whenever a character is healed. So as far as I'm aware, this includes you personally, which gains it a 3/2 immediately as a Priest on the second turn if you've been damaged, which is fantastic. And I've seen games where this has pretty much got out of control so much, especially with a Priest, Divine Shield in it. Not Divine Shield in it, Divine Spirit in it, as well as using Powered Shield. It pretty much makes it so it can't be killed, and you have to use either a CC spell on it or pretty much remove it with one of your own minions, which is pretty bad. And we have the Murloc Tidehunter. The Murloc Tidehunter is relatively crap. I don't like it. In most cases, it's bad for value. Just split it up. Unless you play it with a Murloc deck, it's a 1 for 2. Generally, another 1 minion will kill it. Or basic, pretty much AoE. Arcane Missiles, if you look here with RNG, is pretty much perfect to kill it with. But I have seen in some games where this has got quite a lot of attack due to Murlocs. I know people like Murlocs. I've never tried Murloc decks, so I wouldn't know. But overall, it's not gonna do much unless you're playing it in a Murloc deck. So next up, Elven Archer. I kind of liked this card when I first started, and I thought there's so much more better removals than this Elven Archer. But if you're playing with a basic deck and you haven't got really many cards, it's decent to put in your deck. It's really good removal for early game. Like pretty much most 1 costs and sometimes 2 costs, like Magma Rager, or Wind Fury or Dust Devil, is pretty much a guaranteed kill when you play Elven Archer because it does deal 1 damage, which is great. It gives you board advantage and it gives you card advantage because they've just lost a minion and you've still got 1 on board. And finally, we have the Goldchild Footman. I don't like this card. Sadly, I do not like this card. In most cases, it will be bad for value. It's too weak to be a taunt creature, so it's going to get killed relatively easily, and it's not going to defend you that much. Although, I'll give it props. If they haven't got anything to deal with, it's decent to just take a hit that one time when you've got nothing to defend you really, or you want to try and get something out. But generally, I don't like it. And we have the Grimscale Oracle. The Grimscale Oracle is played mostly in Murloc decks. Again, unless you're building a Murloc deck, value is really poor. You're not going to get anything out of it, and it's really easy to take out due to how much low HP it's got. And then we have the Murloc Raider. Murloc Raider's a 1/2/1. It's generally bad. It's got no effect at all. Again, take a Leaper Gnome, take a Walking Infiltrator. It's got stealth. It's got the Death Rattle. It's generally much better than the Murloc Raider. In statuses, you might be playing a Murloc deck, but most of the time, people won't be playing Murloc decks. It's garbage. Don't put Murloc Raider in your deck. We have now Shield Bearer. I like this card. Some people might be on fence saying, yeah, it's a good taunt, it's a good meat shield, and I'll agree with that. It's a really good meat shield. It says 1 for 0 with 4 HP. Generally, no in the early game can take this out, but I'll tell you this: it's susceptible to silence, because as soon as they silence it, it's out of the game completely. Like, not normal silencers, it's still like, you still got stats up there, it's out of the game completely. Unless you can give it some damage, it's just taking space on your board for another minion that could be there in the late game, and they're not going to get rid of it unless randomly they do AoE that's going to hit it. But most of the time they won't get rid of it, because it's, when you've silenced it, it's a 0-4 with nothing, and they can just proceed to just wail on you constantly. Next we have the Secret Keeper. Whenever a secret is played, gain 1/1. I like it, it's decent for value, I'd say. I won't say it's good for value like I put here, but it's decent, especially playing with secrets, like mages, hunters. They're generally best for secrets. I know paladins have got some in there, but generally mages and hunters are best for secrets, because they're usually decent removals. And it's a 1-for-1 too, so it's, when you play a secret, it's going to get buffed up to a 2-3. Which is not bad for a 1 cost. Definitely not bad for a 1 cost, but most secrets are 2 or higher cost. So therefore it's just going to turn into a magnet. But it can trade pretty well in that regard, depending on what they've got up. So in my book, it's alright if you're playing a secret deck or got some secrets in there that you can reliably get out early. So this is actually useful. Next, the South Sea Deckhand. Deckhand. Has a charge while you have weapon equipped. I love this card. People say, you're crazy, why do you like this card? I know, it's good, it's decent removal, it's a 1-for-2-1, and generally beats pretty much most 1 costs, especially if you have a weapon, of course. And it can usually remove some off field instantly. Especially if this combined with your weapon, if someone gets to chill, like this and Yeti out instantly, you can whack it with, for example, Fiery War Axe, and use Deckhand, that's 5 damage there. You've just wiped a Yeti off the field. Yetis are extremely good value, so just removing that from field just give you a massive advantage right there. And if you have a minion already on field, then you've pretty much got a free hit on the target. Next, Stone to Spore. It's a 1-for-1 with charge. I generally don't like this. I don't like many cards actually for 1 costs. It's alright for hunters with Unleash Your Hounds or Direwolf Alpha or Raid Leader. Gives it a 2-1, it can usually remove stuff then. But on its own, it's generally garbage, and you don't really want to play this on its own, because it's a 1-1. And I guess you could argue that you could use it on your second turn when they've got a minion down, but then you've probably got a 2 cost in your hand, and the 2 cost is generally better at that point than the 1 cost. So the only thing I prefer it in is a hunter deck. Starving Buzzard combo works really well, but generally just hunter decks really. Other than that, it's probably garbage and you should never take it. Next, Voodoo Doctor. Battle Cry restores 2 HP, and it's a 1-for-2-1. Yeah, you won't be able to get this out early because you won't make use of its Battle Cry, since most stuff you won't be able to heal in the early game. Later game, if you just randomly draw it, which some people will obviously, it's alright. It keeps some people alive sometimes, keeps minions healthy, so I know it can trade better. But generally, it's alright, it's okay for value, but in games like this, healing's not really as much as an issue. You really generally want to do damage to people. And lastly, we have the Young Priestess. I like this card. It's one of those end of a turn things, so regardless when you put it down, unless he's got a snipe, unless the hunter has a snipe, it's generally going to do its effect on 1 random minion, and I suggest not playing it on its own. Because playing it on its own pretty much means that it's going to get insta-gibbed straight off because it's a target, and it can't buff itself. So it's pretty much a 1-for-2-1, it can't buff itself, and it usually dies pretty much relatively quickly. Unless you're a priest when you can buff it quite substantially with HP, generally it's going to die quite a lot, and it's usually a bullet magnet most of the time. So yeah, that's all the 1-drops in the game, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and it took me quite a lot of effort to do this video, so if you'd like, thumbs up, comment, rate, share it to everyone, I'd be thankful. Bye! If you got on this far, you must love my content. Click on the annotation to see my current content, or you can subscribe now to see future content.